Hello and welcome to a new video. For today's video I am doing something very self-indulgent. I mean, most of my videos are anyway, but this feels incredibly more. So a little while ago I watched Gab Smolders on YouTube play a game called Sorry We're Closed. It's a survival horror game and it's got like demons and angels, and I've heard it compared to the Persona games, Silent Hill and Resident Evil, and for the most part I agree with those comparisons. It gives some very retro game vibes, but very fun, colourful, creative character ideas and stuff. I got a little obsessed with it for a bit. It is such a cute game. Well, I say cute, I just really like the game and it has a gorgeous art style, and when I saw it all I could think of was, if I made a game about my characters, if I made a game about Kara, this is what I would want the game to look like, this is what I would want it to feel like. So I was actually messing around with like designing some stuff in my little sketchbook. Let me get that. Where did I do it? Yes, so I've been really enjoying drawing my OCs a lot lately, specifically Kara as usual. I like drawing her in these outfits that are typically from when I do late night perusing on Pinterest. I come across some really fun outfits that just like perfectly suit Kara, so I do these like doodles of her. Yeah, so that kind of fits into, I was also trying to come up with some like fighting ideas and just character ideas for if I made a game for her, and that kind of spread into what today's video is, which is I wanted to try experimenting with a different art style than usual, inspired by the character art from this game. So that is what I will be doing in today's video. I also, because this is just basically a video about my OCs, I put out on Instagram just a little question thing, if you guys had any questions about my characters. So this is kind of a Q&A for that as well. So today will be a very chill video where you can watch me trying out this different art style, drawing my characters, whilst learning a bit more about their backstories and such. So a little context, I suppose. The characters that I am drawing in today's video, they are my own characters that I have created from my brain, I guess. And they are, there's 4 of them: Kara, Caesar, Nick and Greta. You will see them as the video progresses, and they are part of a band called Graveyard Bash. It is a supernatural band made up of supernatural creatures. Kara is a demon, Caesar is a vampire, Nick is a werewolf, and Greta is a necromancer. Let's start with the first question, which is from Lemanoki. They asked, how did Kara turn into a demon / obtain her horns, or was she just born with it? So Kara was born a demon. Her mother, who I've recently been fleshing out a bit more in my mini sketchbook, her name is Edith. She is a demon who had multiple partners over centuries, because like these are characters, these demons, they can live for a long time. And because of the multiple partners, it is why Kara and her brothers look quite different. Yes, I've recently been working on a proper design for her mother and her mother's current partner. I kind of like imagine her as a somewhat regal, kind of elegant, high-standing demon, just like in the way that she holds herself and presents herself. And Kara is the middle child of her family. She mostly takes after her father in appearance, but has like her mother's complexion, so they both have blue skin. Her younger brother, Tristan, is part fire demon, which is why he has red skin. And her older brother, Desmond, is the first child. He's the oldest, whose father was an angel. These are things that I really want to explore more, but at the moment they are still kind of concept-ish. But yeah, so she's always had her horns. She is a demon, born demon. At Pink Straws asked, are they all a gang who travel together? So yes, like I said earlier, they are part of a band called Graveyard Bash. The name was a slight accident. I misremembered a lyric from Monster Mash. I thought the line, "It was a graveyard smash," was actually it was a graveyard bash, and I wanted their name to be a sort of reference to it since the band is made of supernatural creatures. So I chose the name Graveyard Bash. Once I'd realised my mistake, I thought, yeah, it doesn't matter, it makes it more unique, and by this point I was already kind of attached to it, and I like it, yeah, so it's a reference for me, it's like a personal reference to that, but it is its own thing now, which makes me very happy. At Ezra Bailey 26 asked, what was your original inspiration for them? So Kara was made back around in 2018 when I was reading the comic Saga, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of. It is a really beautiful comic. It's got some gorgeous art, but for some reason I stopped reading it. I need to pick it up again. But anyway, I was really into it and I wanted to come up with my own demon character, so I was messing around with like a simple demon design. I put it in a folder and then I forgot about it. And then in 2020 I was going through art block, and I find that redrawing old art really helps me through art block. So I found this old drawing of this demon. I painted it blue and purple, I think because it was initially just meant to be like funky lighting, but it kind of stuck, which ties into at Finna.19's question of why did I choose to have Kara's skin blue. I feel like it was an accident, but I got attached to it. I thought it was interesting. Then I drew her as my first draw this in your style, and she kind of just stuck around. I just enjoyed drawing her every now and then. She has become like one of my comfort characters to draw. If I don't know what to draw, I'll just draw Kara. Caesar came about through a joke between me and my brother. We were making fun of the stereotypical cape wearing vampire, and I drew a doodle of one with those goofy quiff pompadour hair things, and I gave him a pretentious name, Caesar, to make fun of him. But I then drew him again a couple days later in a slightly more serious style because I wanted to see if I could make it look better, which is also when it was around the same time I named the group Graveyard Bash, but I don't actually remember if they were a band at this point. But basically each time I drew Caesar, I liked him more and more, and then he and Kara became a couple purely because I drew them together randomly. I just really liked them together. I drew Nikolai at the same time that I drew the second version of Caesar because I wanted a werewolf character, and he wasn't anything special, but I liked him enough to keep him. He doesn't really have a special story for his creation or inspiration. He was just a plain character. And then Greta, she was created a couple months later when I wanted a fourth member for the band. There was originally another member, but they got pushed to band manager, and then they kind of just faded out of existence. I didn't really like him much, and I kind of imagined him as not a very nice guy, so I don't mind that he's gone. But yeah, I wanted to make a death-themed character, so she became a necromancer, and since she had bones and skeleton accessories, I thought it would be kind of fitting to make her a pianist, keyboardist, since the keys are typically, or at least they used to be, made from like bone and ivory, so I thought, you know, that just felt kind of fun. At _red s lily _ and _Toriana asked, how did they meet, how was the band created, and how are they related, how do their stories connect? So Kara and Caesar, they met during the Victorian era when Caesar was visiting England from America. These two were like quite old, you know, they've lived through a lot of stuff. And they were at a party being hosted by one of the like wealthy families, and you know, they were both drawn to each other. I haven't fleshed out their exact meeting that much, but it was basically a meet cute. But they both had other priorities at the time, so they didn't pursue anything further until like the 1920s, where their paths crossed again when Kara was this time visiting America, and they took it as a sign. I guess they've just stuck together ever since, kind of drifting from place to place. And then during the 80s they came across a girl who was in mourning for her brother, and Kara took pity on her, teaching her like a resurrection spell, but she warned her of the potential dangers that could come from using it. They performed the ritual together using Kara's connection to the demonic realm, and they successfully brought the girl's brother, Hans, back to life, but at the cost of fracturing the girl, who is Greta, her soul. So she was then changed. Her personality was like a whisper of what it once was, and with a newfound connection to the dead, she decided to dabble in necromancy, bringing people and creatures back to life, mostly to see if she could. And because she was so grateful to Kara for helping her bring her brother back, she happily just like stuck around when Kara suggested that she tag along. This was also because Kara kind of felt responsible for the troubles that now presented themselves to Greta, but also more than that, they both became friends, so they wanted to just stick together. Nikolai, he is the baby of the group, and he joined them around the 2000s. This was also around the time the group was starting to play around with the idea of making a band. Having lived through so many decades of sound, they had found a deep love for the evolution of music and the stories and emotions that could be carried through it. So when they found Nikolai, he was very eager to join, and he would bug them about whether they needed a drummer or not. He struggled with outbursts of anger and had an abundance of energy, so he was kind of less interested in the music aspect of it and saw it as a great way to manage his anger positively, as opposed to like weekly bar fights that he would more often than not instigate. And because these were other supernatural creatures, he felt like he was safer to allow himself to have that aggression around them because they were strong enough to take care of themselves. At It's Shuria asked, what's their guilty pleasures? This is something I've never really thought about. Guilty pleasures are difficult, and I'm not really sure what theirs would be. It's kind of tricky to think. I suppose Caesar's would be human blood. It's something he's been trying to give up for a long time. He indulges in it every now and then, and the guilt he feels every time he gives in is overwhelming, but it is a guilty pleasure, you know. He enjoys it, but he doesn't want to. Nick enjoys being violent. He sometimes goes out of his way to start a fight because he really enjoys just letting go. He knows he shouldn't, and it can cause a lot of trouble for people, but, you know, guilty pleasure. And currently Kara and Greta don't really have one. This might change at some point, but for now, they just don't have one. At Zakar256 said, I believe I've seen Caesar as a cowboy. If so, what would his horse look like? I don't actually remember if I've drawn him as a cowboy. I mean, I could have. I haven't got the best memory when it comes to what I've drawn my characters doing, but I absolutely should. I've drawn Kara as a cowboy, as a cowgirl, but I really should just draw the whole crew like that because, you know, I love cowboys. Everyone loves cowboys, so I should draw them like that. Caesar would have like one of those painted horses. I don't know if they have another name. I'll put one on the screen, but their vibe just seems to suit him. Like the messy, uncoordinated patterns, and they create like a really beautiful, cohesive look. Accidental, but also deliberate looking. You know, like effortless and thoughtless look. It just seems to suit him. So yeah, that would be his horse. At mtan_outer10 asked, what are their birthdays? I'm actually kind of ashamed. I've never given them a birthday before. So I was coming up with one while I was reading through your questions, and I was initially gonna go with the date that I first drew them, but Caesar and Nick were like a day apart, so it didn't feel like that was going to work so well. I gave Kara and Caesar the day they were created, so Kara's is the 24th of February, and Caesar's is the 10th of March. I haven't given them any years yet because it's kind of like undetermined because they can be so old, but that is something I will figure out in the future. I gave Nick a full moon from the year that I drew him, so he's got 3rd of August, and Greta was made on the 15th of November, but I changed it to October to make it spookier. At Peach and Ginger and at Lauren J13 asked, what is Caesar's favourite fruit and what are each of their favourite fruits? This is a strangely specific question that I'm surprised more than one person has asked. Caesar really likes strawberries and strawberry flavoured foods. No reason, just that he loves them. He does like blood oranges too, but that's mostly because he thinks it's funny. Kara really likes oranges because her other mother is a wood dryad named Clementine, who I've also been exploring while fleshing out her mother Edith. But yes, she is a wood dryad and she is able to grow oranges, and she would always peel them for Kara when she was growing up, and it's just kind of a very nostalgic fruit for Kara. She thinks of her home fondly when she has an orange. Nick isn't too big on fruit or vegetables, but you know, he'll eat an apple every now and then because the others will make him, and it's like the easiest thing, I guess, for him to eat. And Greta likes small berries like blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, blah blah blah, because she really likes slowly working her way through a bowl of them while she does other things, just to mindlessly do in the background. At Flashpoint Comics and at Brenner_Ray06 asked, what are their character dynamics like? Do they all get along? And what are the dynamics of each duo in the group? How do they all act together? So they all get along well enough. Kara and Caesar are together, so you know, they get along great. Kara is quite extroverted and bubbly, and Caesar has a nice balance of extrovert and introvert. He's happy to match Kara's pace, but also really enjoys a nice night in while Kara's still out partying or at a group gathering of some sort. But she'll also spend nights in, mostly just to be with Caesar though. Greta is pretty introverted. Since bringing her brother back to life, she's aware of how she's changed and doesn't fit into social settings the same way she used to. She can make people who don't really know her uncomfortable, and she is fully aware of that. So she tries to avoid being in those situations as much as possible. She enjoys staying at home with her skeleton cat Arius, and she fits into the group dynamic super well because she's just happy to go along with what everyone else is doing, but she will speak up if she disagrees with something or has an idea she wants heard. She's not a pushover or anything. She just really likes to go with the flow. And she and Kara get on super well. They're like really good buddies. Nick is loud and he plays devil's advocate a lot. And this can make it really difficult to get along with new people. But the group, for the most part, ignore his outbursts and they love him for the energy and motivation he brings. He has mood swings a lot. He can be the happiest, most positive guy one second and the next be either quiet and moody, ready to snap at any second, or shouting at anyone and everything that even slightly ticks him off. Caesar and Nick can sometimes get into heated arguments. Caesar isn't easily phased, but Nick knows how to get under his skin, and when it's close to a full moon, he usually will. He doesn't mean anything personally by it, but he rebels against Caesar sometimes just because he sees him as a slight father-brother figure, and he'll take his frustrations with his real dad out on Caesar sometimes, but also because he knows that Caesar can take it because he's quite strong as well. And then Kara and Caesar being the oldest of the group means that they act like the parents of it, so they keep everyone in check but also make sure everyone is okay. They're calm but firm, and it is mostly because of them that the group works so well together. At exo.slvn asked, if their house is on fire, what's the one thing each would save? Caesar would save Kara. Kara would try and save as many outfits as she could before Caesar would drag her out. Greta would save her skeleton cat Arius. He'd probably be fine since he can't die again, but she wouldn't risk it. Nick would grab some random thing on his way out. He's not really attached to items since he had to leave everything he owned behind when he first ran away from home. He's learnt it's easier not to care, so yeah, probably the thing closest to the door. At some_mango and at Melian Online and at Slurmplurt asked what their favourite food is. So no surprise, Nick really likes meat. Any meat that he can get his teeth into and just go at it, like steak, lamb chops, triple burgers, you name it, he'll eat it. But he'll also just eat anything, like junk food. Give him food, he'll eat it. If it's not fruit and vegetable, I mean, even then he might eat a fruit and vegetable if he's bored. They're not his favourite. Caesar also likes red meat. The rarer the better. Sometimes he'll even pass up the meat altogether and just go for the juices they come in, which is really gross. But Nick is very fond of when he does this because it's more food for him. Greta is a pasta girl. Anything with pasta and she's happy. Carbonara, pomodoro, even just a plain bowl of pasta, she'll be happy. And Kara is very fond of spicy food, fajitas in particular. Her spice cupboard would be a thing of beauty. It would be jam-packed. @_Dotty_ and @Sassy_Keno asked, what are their favourite animals? So Kara, she likes tigers a lot, probably because she has a pet tiger named Dijkstra, who I mentioned in my previous RTX watercolour pencil video. Yeah, so she'd probably really like tigers. Caesar really likes birds. The vast range of species there are just like astounds him. Small harmless birds to giant aggressive predators, beautiful and ugly, but like they're all elegant in their own way. He just really likes birds. Nick likes bears. Sometimes he'll pretend that he's a werebear instead of a werewolf. He just likes their like massive size. He just thinks bears are cool. And Greta, she likes her cat specifically. Cats in general are cool, but her cat Arius is better than any other cat, which is the way with cat owners. And she views him as his own like elite species because of how special he is to her. And I guess like technically he is. You know, what was being a skeleton and all. @L_MJRX and @GreenGummyBear asked, who was your favourite, least favourite, and why? And first of all, how could you ask such a question? That is so mean. And my favourite is Kara. As for least favourite, I really don't have one. I like them all the same. It goes Kara, then Caesar, and then Nick and Greta are basically equal. But Nick gets drawn the least, but I think that's more an issue with his design. Like, it doesn't jump out to me as much as the others. And that's one reason why I've changed his hair slightly to try and make it more fun to draw. I just need to find him some fun, funky costumes that suit his personality and that I can enjoy drawing. That's usually what brings me to the others. So I need to sort something out for him. @EGC.arts asked, what's any of your OC's most prized possession? So I think for the most part, I'm going to give this the same answer that I gave for the items they would save if their house was on fire question. Except maybe, aside from saving Kara, Caesar really cherishes the first album the group made together. Like, it's the first time he's left his mark on the world, and that he made it with Kara makes it immeasurably special to him. So like when people think of him, they'll think of him and Kara together, and that means everything to him. @JamesRaw asked, who paints their toenails in the band? And I don't know if this is what you meant by the question, but I have this image of one of them specifically going around and painting everyone's toes, which I think is so funny. So that would probably be Kara. She'd paint her own and then have a go at everyone else's feet. Caesar would let her because he kind of likes the look of painted nails, and he'd probably ask her to paint his fingernails too. And Nick would fight for his life, kicking and screaming. And Kara's success rates are a bit iffy with him. She can sometimes get him if he's asleep or if Caesar helps pin him down, and Greta would let her paint her nails just to make Nick feel better about his own. @BreadedNuggets asked, can I date one please? You can certainly try. Kara and Caesar are obviously a couple. They're pretty dedicated to each other. Nick is with Kara's brother Tristan, sort of, and Greta isn't really interested in having that kind of relationship. She's really content as she is. And this also ties into @AmongThem34's question of, is there any ship between the four of them? They're all basically happy, content, sorted. Yeah, good luck. @ElphPhillips asked, are you going to add any other band members? It's not likely, but I'll never 100% rule out the possibility, because who knows down the line. I mean, they do sort of already have extra members in a way. Greta reanimated some skeletons who became their groupies. They're usually somewhere on the stage when they perform. I've had this in like previous drawings before, but they're usually backup dancers or backup singers. But they currently don't have any names, and I haven't settled on a number of how many of them, but there are at least 3 of them usually. @Sam_Denny1 asked, what is the story behind Greta's purple hair? It's actually not purple, it is dark with pink. So she can be quite a reserved person, probably because of the ritual that she went through to bring her brother back to life. It took a toll on her soul, so she doesn't express too much with her appearance. By the way, do want to quickly mention that whole ritual thing messed up her eyes Like, she can see perfectly fine. She does see things slightly different. Like, she sees things with a sort of spiritual aura kind of thing, but it means that she hasn't got any visible pupils. So if you ever see me drawing her and you wonder why I don't draw her with pupils, is because she doesn't have any. Because of the whole thing of it fractured her soul, I wanted it to be like symbolism for that, because you know they say like the eyes are the window to the soul, so I'm saying that she's got no windows. Yes, she doesn't like to express too much through her appearance, but Kara convinced her one day to let her dye her hair a neon pink, and Greta, she wasn't a huge fan of it, so she's been slowly letting it grow out, which is why it is now just the tips of her hair. But now that it is just the tips, she kind of likes it, also because it's a reminder of her friendship with Kara and how Kara didn't mistake her reservedness as like indifference for connection. She has a hard time reaching out, so it's just like a personal reminder to her that she is loved. At Leah_B1313 said, I love Kara and I would like to know more about her story and what species she is. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who says how much they love Kara. That means so much to me. She is so precious to me, so it just means a lot to hear that other people also like her. So yes, she is a demon. Her parents are demons too, but she was raised by her mother, Edith, the demon, and her mother's wife, Clementine, the wood dryad. She has a very healthy relationship with her father. She sees him frequently and he was very present in her growing up. He dotes on her and he is extremely proud of her and who she's become. She and her family grew up in one of the realms of hell. Oh, and I should probably mention that the versions of hell and other universes and realms in my story aren't like the typical ones, as in hell isn't like a place that sinners go. It's just a universe full of demons and creatures, and the inhabitants of these places live normal lives just as people do on Earth. So it's less of a bad place to go and more of just an alternate universe, a universe alongside ours. You can travel between these places as easily as getting on a train. Specifically, you'd want to get the dimension hopping train. That's like one of the things that I would like to touch upon with her story one day. There's so much for her that I've like never really written down or fleshed out, so there is still a lot of unknowns for me to discover. But yeah, it's one reason why I'm really glad that I started this Q&A for them all, because it's really helped me realize more of my ideas and finally write things down that have like been in my head. So I do want to quickly say a huge thank you to everyone for sending in these questions and showing an interest in my characters, and I really hope you're enjoying hearing and learning about them so far, because I'm really enjoying sharing it all with you. But it is like a very personal piece of me, so be gentle. I'm like exposing part of my soul to you guys. At InkyGhost75 asked, how do you plan on telling their story, like book, comic, etc.? And in my head I've always envisioned showing their story through a comic. My problem is I've never really known where to start or what plot to have a story based around. Would it be a slice of life comic? Would it be an adventure? Would there be horror? I've not been able to nail it down. And then since seeing this game, Sorry We're Closed, that has inspired this video, I've been obsessed with the idea of making a game similar. So yeah, like I mentioned at the beginning, I've been messing around with a little bit of weapons and stances and outfits for her, but currently I don't think I'm at a point to make either. She'll probably stay an idea in my head for now. I draw in fun clothes and situations with her friends for the foreseeable future. My plans for her are always in the back of my head. One day, hopefully. At Hazel_Bud_ asked, is the world fantasy? Do they have abilities? And I suppose it is fantasy. You know, it has demons, vampires, werewolves, wizards, basically anything you can think of. It is basically just an amalgamation of everything I like, but it is in a modern setting. And they do sort of have abilities, like Kara and Caesar have extended lifespans. Caesar also has sort of superhuman abilities in that he's stronger, faster, and more resilient than a regular human. He can't fly or turn into a bat, unfortunately. Greta can use magic. She really just sticks to necromancy, and her magic is limited to her knowledge. She needs to know a spell or have a spell in front of her to cast it. She has a grimoire that she found not long after bringing her brother back, that she's mostly memorized. And Nick can turn into a wolf. He can do it at will if he really wants to, but as it gets closer to a full moon, he loses more control, and he's likely to turn if he feels any strong emotions, which unfortunately happens a lot because his emotions also go quite haywire around full moons. And that's basically it. They don't have any other powers or anything. The ones that they do have are pretty tied into what they are. At Dream for Everest asked what kind of music do they listen to, and they listen to a lot of different music. As Kara and Caesar have been around the longest, they listen to a large range, as their taste has also changed with the evolution of music. They currently like a lot of electronic music, but Kara also really liked a lot of the songs produced in like the 70s and the 80s. Caesar is fond of like classic rock, and it's hard to tell with Greta. She seems to usually like anything with a good rhythmic beat. And Nick likes a lot of punk rock music. He likes aggressive songs and songs that he can be aggressive to. I don't really know. But yeah, they take a lot of inspiration from like lots of little bits from songs that they like and bands that they like to add to their music. At your_worst nightmare asked what's their love language. Kara's love language is through touch. She likes the physical connection with her loved ones. Hugs, holding hands, fiddling with hair, a gentle hand on someone's back. She likes people to be aware of her and her love. Caesar likes making lots of small gestures. If someone is feeling down, he likes to bring them their favourite food or drink. If he's out shopping, he likes to bring small things back for everyone. He'll always cook extra food in case someone drops in unannounced, which is usually Nick. And turning down the volume on the TV or radio if someone's trying to focus or they're getting overwhelmed. He pays attention to people and will act on what he notices, usually before they've even noticed it themselves. Greta has her own way of loving other people. She likes to love through her presence, being around people and paying attention, and just showing someone that she's there and she sees them. It's how she likes to be loved, so she reasons it's, you know, a good way to show love. And she and Caesar get on quite well because of this. Nick also likes to show love physically, but not in the same way as Kara. He likes to play fight and tackle people and pick them up. He plays aggressively. Or he's play aggressive, you know, like cuteness aggression. He gets kind of agitated and needs to show his love in a slightly rough way, which can be a little overwhelming for some people, and he'll find himself apologising a lot of the time, but you know, he's always smiling and everyone usually ends up happy. At ghosts_apothecary and at Pearl in Vinegar asked what sort of music do they play and what artists were the inspiration for this. So one of my Patreons asked a similar question to this. Pocket asked if I'd made a playlist of songs that I think they would write, which I can't believe I hadn't done yet. So I have started making a Spotify playlist for them that is made of songs with a similar vibe to what they'd make. I've left a link to it in the description if you want to check it out, but bear in mind it's not finished yet and I am still adding to it, and if you have any suggestions based on what is in the playlist, I would be happy to hear them. I like to think that they'd not just stick to one genre though, and they would like mess around and experiment with a bunch of sounds, but I suppose the genre they make the most would be like alternative, indie and electronic. At Onova asked who likes to read the most, and that would be Greta. She likes to read lots of history and factual books. Understanding how things work is something she really enjoys. She'll read books on machines just to understand how the coffee machine works. She just likes to know things. Caesar, on the other hand, is a sucker for fictional books. Especially books on vampires. He loves reading romance books, both because he genuinely enjoys them, but also so he can read sappy love scenes to Kara to make her laugh. He's a big fan of the Twilight books. And then there are a couple more things that I just want to like touch upon with my characters that haven't been asked, so that is what I will do now. So earlier I mentioned that Kara has a younger brother called Tristan, who was the red-skinned demon. He works as a bouncer at a nightclub called Paradise, and he is the reason they got their first official gig. Because he worked at this club, he was like, hey, my sister is part of a band, they're pretty good, do you want to try them sometime, you know, one night, have them play here? And it went so well that they've now become like the face of the club in a sense, you know, because they've made it famous because it has become their origin of where they were discovered. I did actually experiment with a small comic about this. I call it a silent comic, which is stupid because all comics are technically silent, but it has like no words, like no speech bubbles or anything. So I don't know what you'd actually call it, but I do make myself laugh and I just call it a silent comic. But yeah, I did a little comic of it ages ago that I didn't really share on Instagram or anything of them at this club. So I will put that up on the screen in case you're interested. Moving on to Kara's other brother, Desmond. He is the older brother. Unfortunately, his father died when he was younger and he was their mother's like great love. They were together for a really long time and they both thought that they would be together till the end of time, but that unfortunately wasn't the case. He's the angel, by the way. Desmond's father is the angel. Kara's father came around when her mother's heart had begun healing, and they were really happy for a time. They really were happy together, but they ultimately realised that they were better as friends, and they have remained close friends ever since. They were like, it's better if we're not actually partners. And it's been a really healthy relationship, which I really like. And because of it, Kara actually has a bigger family. She has 2 lovely mothers and a really loving dad. Tristan's father was like a small fling that burned hot but fizzled out fast. I love making puns. He was a fire demon. He led into Edith, their mother, meeting her new love, the wood dryad, Clementine. She was calm, soft and gentle and perfect for what Edith's heart needed, and in return she was what the dryad needed. They lived happily together ever since, and they raised the 3 children in idyllic happiness. And I've been doing a couple doodles of Clementine the wood dryad and the 3 demon children as children, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. It's not something I ever thought I would touch upon, and honestly I don't need more OCs, but I've grown attached to them, so I guess we'll see if I do more with them in the future. I've also recently been making more OCs anyway. I did want to say a little bit more about Nikolai and his origin. So Nikolai wasn't born a werewolf. He was turned during his teenage years, and combined with his already crazy hormones, he became a nightmare, and his father really did not help in this matter. His father was disgusted and ashamed of what Nikolai had become, and he would aggressively try to restrain Nikolai and the energy that he always had. He would force Nikolai to hide his new nature, locking him up and keeping him on house arrest. Because of this, Nikolai lost all connections to his friends, and he became extremely self-conscious about his appearance, obsessively shaving all his hair in an attempt to gain some favour with his father, because he had like crazy hair growth after becoming a werewolf, because I'm leaning into the cliches. But yes, so he would try and hide it by shaving everything, and he's only recently stopped doing that. But yes, ultimately this all made Nick's unstable emotions worse, both longing for his father's love but also resenting him for his obvious rejection. And it all came to a head during a bad full moon when the 2 of them got into a physical fight, and it ended with Nick breaking out of the house and leaving for good. And then not long later he found Caesar and Kara, and they took him in. But Nikolai now embraces himself. He grooms himself out of familiarity, but he's way less obsessive with it than he used to be. This is partly rebellious towards his father, but he'll never really admit that. But yeah, that was just a little few extras that I wanted to add on, because while answering these questions, more thoughts and fleshing out of these characters came to me, and I just really wanted to share it with you. But I hope that you don't mind this has been a slightly different video, where I comment less on the art and more on the characters themselves. I made these name tags, which I stuck in with washi tape so that they are easily removable, so if I feel like it I can just take them off. And yeah, these little things down here were just to fill the gap a bit, but I really like how these turned out. I think Kara probably turned out the best in my opinion. She's my favourite. I think it's a combination of I love drawing Kara, and because she was the first one that I drew, I had way more energy to focus on her. Also because she has blue skin, I think it's really fun to mess around with the colours in that way, whereas everyone else just has human skin. I really like the colouring that I went with for this, because I was trying to let the artwork from Sorry We're Closed influence what I was doing, and the combination of the alcohol markers and the acrylic markers really helped me mess around with that. So I really like how these turned out. It does feel like a strange page. This isn't really how I planned for it to be laid out when I first started, but that is how it ended. Yeah, I really enjoyed just doing a video for my OCs, and I really appreciate all the interest you guys have in my characters. And if there are any questions that I didn't cover in this video that you would like to know about, feel free to leave them in the comments and I will get around to answering them as much as I can. Thank you so much to everyone who sent in a question. It's been so incredibly helpful and nice that you guys are interested. So yes, thank you for that. I also want to say a huge thank you to my Patreons: Dispe, Finn Carter, Grimclow, The Waffle of Life, Non-Toxic, Saint Nix, LP, Kira May, K, Joanna, VB, Pretty Rotten, R.A. Foxy, Joanna Snake Moon, Humble Frogs, Local Fishkeeper, Mold Ghoul, Farrar Ware, Sun Arts, Molly Marula, Scout Radley, Sammy Bear 127, Kenzania, Jade S, Arrow, Charlie, Malorus, Jess H30, Cindy King, Art by Lavender, Angel of the Woods, Rainbow Tea, Breaded Nuggets, Lindsay, Humani, The Moth Bug, Knox, Catbird House, The Tormented Shadow, Sweet and Hopeless, Pocket, Misfit, Jordan's Tiny Planet, The Coffee Rain, Black Jackal Art, Leela Loves You, Halachu, Faith, A. Wendu, Kozascobs, Wolf and Wares, Inky Slug, Olivia Gadbor, Heather F, Cheris Needham, Rotting Lettuce, Binexary, Cyrus Orion, Lolo, Brianna McGraw, Malbon Designs, Gamut Girl, Dodo, Catberry Studio, Solar Tortoise, Venom Horror, Auden, Red S Lily, Haley, Sienna G, Stephanie, Lady Ratbird, Clown, Fia, Greenfinch G Illustration, Lynn, Cody, Pobbles, You Wouldn't Steal a Car, and Cloud. Thank you guys so much. I just want to thank everyone as well for sending me their art of my characters to show now at the end of the video. It's been so nice just looking through all the different styles and the things you've drawn of my characters and which ones of them you chose to draw, and it's just so nice to see you guys wanting to draw them. So yes, I hope you enjoy looking through these pictures, and as usual I am working on another video and that will hopefully be out soon, so I'll see you in that video.